just staying busy with my job and taking care of the stray cats and then my own cats. That's basically my life. And playing board games. That's it.
How many stray cats have you got now?
Well, I have two colonies and there's at least 20 cats in each colony.
Right.
So,
Oh, it's a lot.
yeah.
We've got one that comes to the care home. So there's a stray cat. So basically, because it's in the middle, beautiful countryside, and basically the house. When I say next door, it's not next door. It's like down the lane.
Yeah.
Uh, they left and abandoned left the two cats, and one of them
Oh,
would try and get into the care home. So one of the residents who has capacity,
yeah.
basically has got this little calendar, and she pays for the cats to get for that particular cat comes in to have its vaccinations and things,
Yeah.
then feeds the cat. Hello and welcome to Board Game Bonkers. This is Under the Meeple Light Show, and today's guest we've got Sarah Shea from Board Games in a Minute. Welcome, Sarah.
Hello, welcome. Why am I saying welcome? Thank you.
So you've been on the show before. You were in the first season. So yeah, do you want to tell everyone how that felt and how it was back then?
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, and it was fun to also take part in the Christmas game show. I absolutely love that because I've always dreamt of being on a real game show. So I think this is as close as I can get. So that was a lot of fun too. Yeah.
It was well received as well for those who watch and haven't. It's in the playlist. I think it's on the themed playlist, so it's worth checking it out if you haven't seen it. It's really super fun, and we'll do that again for this Christmas. So why don't you tell everyone just briefly a little bit about yourself and your board game channel?
Sure. So I have a board game channel called Board Games in a Minute. So I do, crowdfunding coverage for games that are coming out on various crowdfunding platforms. But in addition to that, I have a weekly series called The Weekly Playback, in which I discuss all the games I've played in the last week.
Yes, and you'll see YouTube shots as well that pop up every so often from Sarah. So I definitely recommend checking the channel out. So let me just briefly explain what this is all about for our viewers that they are perhaps are new and not familiar. So what we do is we draw 10 questions from this poll. Now, our guest has no idea what the questions are, and it's slightly different this season than the previous season that Sarah was on. So a lot of the questions are in three different categories. We have yes or no statements, we have agree or disagree statements, and we've got what's the first thing that comes to mind. So completely different the way we're doing it, mostly related to the board game industry. So Sarah, when you're ready, we'll draft out the first one.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, so let's see what will come out first. Now, we have no idea what these are. So the first one is an agree or disagree. So deluxified board games with improved PCs enhances the theme. Do
Agree.
you want
Do you
to
want me
elaborate?
to elaborate or
Absolutely.
so would you like me to yeah, okay, yeah.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't say for every game, but it's just nicer. It's just nicer when you have nice components. It's not necessary, but it's just a nice thing to have. And if the components feel like they fit in with the theme more, then of course I feel like it's going to enhance the theme and the gameplay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I remember when I first got into gaming, it was more about the mechanisms and how games functioned. And, when I kind of progressed with playing more games, it was more about, well, how does the theme fit into the mechanisms and how does it engross me? And definitely deluxified components can give you a nice feel about the game and definitely kind of draw you more into it, particularly if you think about, standard coins versus gold coins, or perhaps you've got nicer
Yeah.
looking pieces rather than standard, small little pieces perhaps that are on the board, and perhaps they've got some, pattern or color to it, or perhaps you've got the different kind of screen printed kind of meeples. It just brings a little bit more into the game and immerses you more into the actual
For
gameplay.
sure. Yeah.
I'd be interested to see what our viewers think as well, and how many people have actually got deluxified, upgrades on their board games, because there are a few people that do that and deluxify the board games, and perhaps they go to Etsy to get all those deluxified pieces, which is great. And if that's what keeps them happy and engrosses them in that theme, well, so be it. So let's move into our second one, Sarah. Let's see what comes out. Oh, so that was a nice one to start with. So our second one it's what phrase comes to mind. So when someone who is eating fried food picks up a card with the greasy fingers.
Yeah, I would say please don't do that. I would be terrified. Oh my God, no. I would just be panicked and I would just ask them, I'd be like, oh, my board games are really precious to me. So if you could just maybe put that card down and, kindly wipe your hands and not eat greasy foods around my game, I would really appreciate it.
I think I think it'd be giving them some nasty looks, to be honest. If anyone came with some greasy food at the table, because it's about etiquettes, isn't it? When you're playing board games, and while that might not bother them, if they're kind of eating food around, the board games, but that might bother other people. It's about respecting that.
Oh, for sure. That's why, like, one of the reasons, like, when I take games to a game night at a local place where I know that I might end up playing with people I don't know, I always try to take games that have sleeved cards because you don't know what you're going to run into at local game nights.
Yeah, it's definitely, and it's about being polite about it as well. But I certainly wouldn't take too kindly to someone with greasy, paws. But I think as well, what we tend to do, if I've got some friends round, if we're hungry, we'll order food before we play. So we're not, and if we're eating during the game, it's snacks, little things that aren't going to kind of wreck your board games. So
Yeah.
it's about those etiquettes and being
Yes.
respectful,
Yes,
definitely.
sure. Yeah.
So let's move in to our third one, Sarah. So I have a couple of nice ones to start with. So our third one is, what phrase comes to mind when a board game you purchase comes with a rule book in 10 different languages?
What a waste. So, that's happened, not maybe 10, but I've definitely had games that come with like 4 or 5 different rule books. And, I can understand the publisher's viewpoint as well because they're saving on having to, create different boxes with just one rule book in a single language. So for them, maybe it's sa actually saving them money. Whereas me, when I open it up and I'm like having to recycle like 4 different rule books, it's like, all that paper that's gone to waste. So in my mind, it's a waste, but maybe overall, it's actually saving, the company some money or resources. I'd be curious about that. So I would definitely love to maybe talk to a publisher about that one day and see why they do that.
Yeah, it's interesting because generally, if you're kind of out in a game to several different countries that speak various different languages, now we know that English is one of the most spoken languages. It is not the most spoken, it's one of the most spoken languages. And generally, you find nearly all rule books have English in them. And generally, if you look for that language, you'll find it on the publisher's website in a different language. One, you using your own paper at home, you're not actually having it highly printed in a manufacturing plant where the cost is one significantly more, and generally, the use of paper might be significantly more as well. So you can kind of save a bit of, money there by, I can understand publishers doing that and trying to make it accessible for everyone. I completely understand that, but it's also about, is there a need to be creating that many rule books, a number of pages? It's a bit like when you get a new printer, isn't it? You have it in about 20 different languages, and it's like, do you really need 20 different languages? Because generally the setup of a printer is exactly the same for the majority of printers for the past 30 years. So you need it in all those languages. So it's understanding the functionality, the rationale behind it, and is there actually a need to be printing it in those multiple rule books? So I'll be
Yeah.
interested to see what other people's viewpoints on that, because you want to make games accessible. You don't want to be ignorant to the fact that it's not just English, and it's
Right.
about respecting other people's cultures and languages and the language barriers, but it's also making it sure as well that one, we're not unnecessarily printing excessive paper, which obviously does not contribute to our environment. That needs to be
Yeah.
looked after and the planet we live on, but also it's making sure we get that balance right, isn't it? And can we find other ways to make the rule book in other languages available, perhaps online, rather than just printing opening amounts of paper?
Yeah.
So we'll see what other people's viewpoints on that. So let's move into our fourth one, Sarah, and see what comes out. So our fourth one is yes or no question. So will we ever see print and play games? So this fits in nicely as we're talking about paper. So will we ever see print and play games provide the option of printing 3D miniatures at home?
Oh, yeah, I think so, for sure.
Do you think I mean, printers are obviously, with 3D printers, are more affordable. They're still expensive, but a lot more affordable than they were 5, 10 years ago. Do you think that's something that'll be a norm that comes into the board game industry in the future?
I don't know if it'll be a norm because number one, not everyone has a 3D printer, but I think, I think maybe I don't even know if it's a significant portion, but I do feel like, a lot of board gamers do have 3D printers. I don't have one. So, I probably would not buy STL files for a 3D printer because I wouldn't know what to do with them. But I could totally see it happening. I think that that's something that's definitely plausible. Yeah.
Yeah, we see there's obviously looking, on Facebook, you see a lot of people posting about, files for 3D printing and different miniatures. So it's more accessible. It's whether, like on you, I don't think it'll be the norm. I think we will see it, but I think it'll be far and few between because I don't think people will have that unnecessary expense of getting a 3D printer unless they absolutely love miniatures
Yeah.
because there's a cost associated with it. And it's just whether there's a need in the market for that. And I don't know whether the market would be big enough to have that in all print and plays. I think we'll see it in a few. And an option is
Right.
nice. It's nice to have an option, isn't it?
Yeah.
And let the public decide and the gamer, do I want to have my miniatures printed at home to engross me again? Is it a deluxified necessity or, does it help the game improve the engross you in the gaming experience? I'm
Yeah.
sure for many it does. So it'd be great to see whether that is an option in the future and comes out more.
Yeah.
So
Maybe your video will give people that idea.
we will see, we will see. But I have
Yeah.
seen that in a couple of printing plays where somebody has made them available in the actual files to print the miniatures off. So it has happened. It's whether
Oh,
we'll see it in more and more games. So fingers crossed the option is there for the public to decide whether they want to be doing that or not.
yeah.
So let's move into a fifth one, Sarah. Let's see what comes out. So this one's a big one. So our fifth one is, what phrase comes to mind? So when the alpha player takes over in a cooperative game.
Could you, you know, I would say I have an idea and try to, speak my mind about what it is that I think we should do. Like, I don't want to come out and say straight away, like, you are controlling this game and none of us are having fun. So I think I would want to try to say, like, I have an idea. Can I, just throw my idea out there? And then I would ask others if they have ideas and just try to get other people to talk more. I think that that's what I would do.
Yeah, yeah. And the problem with cooperative games, you always tend to get that alpha player who, especially the experienced board gamers, is important
Yeah.
to, especially new gamers, the opportunity to make their own choices and decisions and learn. Otherwise, they'll never learn how the game works if you do it.
Yeah. That's why I tend not to enjoy cooperative games. Like they usually aren't my thing, just because I tend to find them kind of boring where I'm just sitting back and it's like, okay, what now? Like it's just, it's just kind of a bit boring for me.
Yeah, I suppose it depends who you play with. So at the moment, we've actually, part of one of my gaming groups, we've actually been playing Pandemic and adding all the expansion in and making it tougher and tougher as we go along. And we work well as a team, and maybe discuss the options. Do you think we should do this, or what do you think we should do? That works well then because you're all engrossed in a conversation and you're all participating and having your input. Is when someone overtakes that mark and starts to dictate the gameplay.
Yeah.
That's when you start stepping into the alpha player. I tend to get daggers if I'm the one who's coming up with too many ideas or trying to, go down a different route. And then I'm
Yeah.
getting these looks to say, actually, everyone else needs to have an input into this. So I think it's important that you've got people in the team that can bring that back and make sure everyone's inclusive of the decisions that are being made.
For sure. Yeah.
But Pandemic's an interesting one because you tend to get an alpha player in that game. It could be a tricky
Yeah.
one. So let's see if our next question is a tricky one. This is our number 6. So this one is, what phrase comes to mind? There are a few of these. So what phrase comes to mind when you win a box of board games only to be notified the next day they made a mistake?
I'd say that's a real shame. Would you mind telling me what the mistake was? And I don't know, like that would be so sad. Yeah, I can't imagine like what mistakes someone could make where they tell a person one day, "Oh, you won board games," and then the next day, "Oh, sorry, you're not getting board games after all." Like that would just be really heartbreaking. So,
Yeah, I can just imagine the deflatedness in people that for getting that news and then all of a sudden
yeah,
thinking, what on earth has happened? I think, yeah, yeah, it'd be quite depressive for some people. You know, it's almost like you win a competition and all of a sudden you haven't won it. You know,
yeah,
and you've kind of see that in YouTube videos where somebody's won a competition, all of a sudden they haven't won it, and the devastation in that
yeah.
person's body
Sounds
language.
rough. Yeah.
Absolutely. I can see a few people crying over that. So let's see what our next question or phrase comes out as. Let's hope it's a happy one this time. So our number 7 is an agree or disagree. Semi-co-op games don't work. So that's convenient.
Semi-co-op
Semi-co-op, yes. So not cooperative, semi-co-op.
don't work. Um, Disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, I think they work. I think I've played a couple. I mean, I know I've played a couple. The names are not coming to mind, but I think they work. And I think that there's an interesting element to them. Like you want to work together to a certain extent, but then you still have maybe your own goal that you're trying to achieve. So I like that aspect of kind of working together, but still trying to screw over the people that you're working with. So I actually really enjoy games like that.
Mean side to you, Sarah.
Yeah.
I've it's quite interesting because I've been quite vocal. I don't personally don't like semi-co-op games, and I've been quite vocal about it. I personally think they don't work, and I'll briefly I won't go into the detail, but Nemesis is the only game I've felt that works well with semi-co-op because you've got your hidden agenda. You don't know generally until about halfway through the game what others are doing. So you're still working together. And then you think, oh, I'm never going to work on my own and just ignore everyone else. And that kind of tends to work. I played the Great Wall where I felt, like you say, there's that you've got that meanness to it, where somebody will say, I'll go here if you join me, because then it gets resource, only for them to change their mind at the last minute thinking no, and they've left you out dry because you can't get the resource because you need a certain amount of your meeples there in order to gather that resource. So there can be meanness, absolutely. And I think it can wreck friendships as well. So I think you have to be okay with it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if board games are wrecking your friendships, maybe you're in the wrong hobby. So, yeah.
So yeah, I'd be interested to see what our viewers think as well on semi co-op. I've actually got another one, Hijacked. I haven't played it yet, so I'm interested to see how that works as semi co-op because I really like the
Yeah.
theme of it. Let's see whether it works or not. But another one's Castaways, semi co-op. There's the most stupid semi co-op element in it because you work together throughout the whole entire game. You collect these book tokens. You actually need the book tokens to help you. So the objective is at the end of the game, you try and get off the island successfully. You've all won. But the ultimate winner is the one who's collected the most book journal tokens, which is
Interesting.
absolutely ridiculous because you need them through the game. So do I use them to help one another or
Oh,
not? So
that's interesting. I'm gonna look that one up.
it's a game you can't get. It's out of print, unfortunately, and you can pick it up
Oh,
in the second-hand market. Um, it's hard to get. Generally, you find it in America. It's in Europe, it's really difficult to get if you live in Europe. But in America, you tend to find it in the open market. So you might be able to pick
hmm,
it up. But fans who are enjoying Robinson Crusoe might enjoy Castaways. You just have to get past the bad written rule book. But once you get past that, there's a couple of guides on Board Game Geek to help you. It's actually an enjoyable game. I love it. I really do adore it. It's just a nightmare to get past that rule book. But once you figure out the
yeah,
rules, it's an enjoyable game. So
cool.
let's see if our next question or statement is enjoyable. Let's see what this one is. It's a what phrase comes to mind, Sarah. That's another one. Lots of these. So what phrase comes to mind when you ask for something different for Christmas, but still get a board game anyway?
So you ask for something else, but you get a board game?
Yeah. So somebody knows you well. They know you love board games. You ask for something different. Say, not another board game. Perhaps it's someone that gives you those tacky board games you'll never play, and you've asked them for something different, but yet they still give you a board game for Christmas.
I'll say thank you because how can I not say thank you? It's a gift at the end of the day, but that's kind of happened. It's happened for my birthday where I've received gifts that I just board games, which I would just never play, like from friends who I feel like should have known my taste better, but I got games from them that I just would not ever touch. So, but yeah, so I have to say thank you, of course, because it's still the thought that counts. Like, okay, they went to the effort of getting me a board game because they know I love games in general, but. I'm not going
Yeah.
to tell them to their face, like, oh, I'm not going to play this.
Or you could
Yeah.
do what I do and just give them a list and say, just pick these, please. Don't get me anything else, just from this list. But I think you're right, it's about respect as well, isn't it? Well, thank you for
Yeah.
thinking about that, and just
Yeah.
respect.
In fact, the one friend who did that twice in a row, so two birthdays in a row, he gave me a board game, which I would never play. So for the next birthday, I asked him, I was like, oh, instead of a board game, how about you just treat me to lunch instead? So that was, a good way to kind of not get something that I just would not want and just would be a waste. So yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes it's a nice experience doing something different than just getting a board game for a gift. But I'm sure lots of people would still prefer a board game for a gift. It depends what you like as an individual. So let's see what the next one is, Sarah. It comes out the bowl. And it's a big one, so it could be, it is. What phrase comes to mind again? So what phrase comes to mind when someone in your gaming group is constantly on their phone?
Wow. I'd be like, I guess the phrase that comes to mind is it's your turn because I guess they'd have to be reminded all the time that it's their turn. So, um, yeah. Like I've been known to be on my phone, but that's because between turns, if like it's a game where people are taking a very long time on their turn, I have this coloring app on my phone, like color by numbers. So I just like mindlessly color on my phone sometimes between turns. But I'm still kind of paying attention because it's just mindless. I'm just like finding the right number and putting in, just tapping here and there and it colors a picture. But if someone is like really distracted, then, that's gonna ruin the gaming experience. But, I'm not someone who likes confrontation. So I would just be like, it's your turn every time it's their turn and just kind of maybe try to show annoyance through the tone of my voice, maybe. Yeah.
It'll work for many. And I tend to do that as well. I'll try not to use my phone at all because I try and get away from that when I'm playing the board game. But if somebody's taking a long time and I know what I'm going to do in my next round, I'm going to have a quick look at maybe in my phone. Maybe I've got a message that's come in rather than me just staring and doing nothing and just waiting and waiting. So I can understand, but yeah, you're right. If somebody's on the phone all the time, not paying attention to what's going on, it ruins the experience for everyone. So it's about
Yeah.
that. Absolutely. So let's move into a final one, Sarah. Let's see what comes out. So I'm sure this is a different one than the usual. So we've got a yes or no. So we haven't had many of those. So a yes or no question. Should there be an official board game awards show? Now, I know a lot of content creators. I know the Dice Tower doing awards. But should there be an official one for the industry?
I would say no, just because I feel like everyone has biases and there's just so many biases and clicks in this industry. So my question would be, who would be running this official show? Who would be the panel on this official show to decide who wins this board game award? I just feel like in an industry with so many different kinds of clicks, so many different kinds of people who enjoy different board games, just and so many people with different kinds of biases, like, no, I just don't think so.
Would you define the Spiel des Jahres as the most official one that we have?
Yeah,
Would you
I would say that that's kind of an official one, right? I mean, it's the most respected one, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, and that's it's the one that everyone. I mean, that can make a game and sell millions of copies just by having that on its box. It's kind of the crown jewel of it. So yeah, I suppose that's as close as we'll ever get as an official one. And a lot of people see it as the official awards.
I mean, I see it as the official one, to be honest. But again, I don't actually know much about the selection process and the voting process. So I'd be curious about that. But yeah, you're right. I've kind of viewed that one as the official board game award. Yeah.
I don't think many people know about how it's voted or who's on the panel, to be honest. I think it's a select few that know about it. It's very hush hush. And I think that's a good thing because then it's not influenced.
Yeah.
By those.
But again, it may not be influenced, but at the same time, the people on the panel are going to have their own biases as well. You know what I mean? So if there's
Yeah.
no appeals process, like, but now I'm thinking like a lawyer, appeals process for awards. I don't know. Like, I'm just thinking like a lawyer because that's what I am. So, I'm just thinking about biases and stuff like that people have. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think it'll always be subjective, definitely, unless I know the dice have their voting systems. They'll look at the people's choice and they'll do their own choice. So they'll look at two different biases there. And that's a nice way of doing it. But yeah, you're right. I think, the Spiel is the closest we'll ever get to an official award. I think people see it as that way. And it's fine. I do enjoy other content creators doing awards because it's nice to get different opinions. And I think it's a nice way to represent the industry as well, and I think it's nice to showcase the good work that artists and board game designers are doing. So I enjoy it. I think it's fun. I really like it. But yeah, I think it's important not to take it too serious as well, because I think when you become too serious, like the BAFTA awards, I think then you start getting into the element of perhaps manipulation in awards and the influencing coming in. I don't want to go down that route. Let's keep
Yeah.
it a bit more relaxing and a bit more informal, not too official. So officially, that brings us to the end, Sarah. I didn't
Yeah.
plan that. So I hope you've enjoyed that. Completely different questions than the first season. And completely different way of doing things. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and thank you so much. And I recommend that our viewers out there check out the channel Board Games in a Minute. So we'll put the link in the description down below. And if you haven't already done so, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and giving our video a like as well. And leave a comment down below. Let us know your viewpoint on some of these questions or statements, because everyone has got a subjective opinion. So it's interesting to see what you at home see and view these answers. So that brings us to the end. I'd like to thank a guest. Thank you so much, Sarah, for joining us again.
Thank you.
And
This was a lot of fun. Thanks.
this is our final season because we won't be continuing under the Meeple lights, and we will be doing some new content in the future. So keep an eye out for that, and obviously hit the subscribe button. Stare at again the subscribe button to be notified when those videos come out and what is coming out in the future. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you enjoyed this. And until next time, take care.
Bye.